Ooh, I've got a good one for you this week. So let me introduce you to Michelle. Okay, now Michelle is really struggling and frustrated with her thin and fine texture hair because she just cannot get the volume. She can't make it look thick enough. It feels like it's changed recently and it continues to change. And so I'm gonna walk through a consultation. I'm gonna explain why I think this could all be happening and how she can address it, as well as we're gonna cut and style her hair. And then I'm gonna walk her through multiple processes of how to style her hair so that she gets different outcomes. Oh, and before we dive over there, I wanna make sure that you understand, if you're the type of person that's gonna wanna skip through some of this because it is a long video, I highly recommend that you do not skip the consultation portion. It's on the longer side, but there is so much information in there that doesn't just pertain to thin, fine hair, but pertains to many different hair textures. You're not gonna wanna miss it. You'll be sad if you did. And then make sure that you watch the drying process because there's a lot of insight in that portion of the video as well. So get ready for this episode of The Uncut Cut. Excited for this one. This is a good one. All right, Michelle, well, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you taking the chance on me. Tell me a little bit about your hair. What's going on?
Well, I haven't done much with it in quite a few years.
Okay.
And I feel like I don't really have that much of a style. And it's longer, but it's really thin. And I can like see the light through it. It's getting really thin. And I think if I want to get it a little more fuller somehow.
Okay.
I play a lot of tennis. So that's one of my caveats is that I need to be able to keep it out of my face when I play tennis.
Okay.
And I also live in Bend, so I want to keep my neck warm.
I know Bend. We're neighbors almost.
Practically.
You live in the cool part of the area. I live in Redmond, so
Redmond's
I love Bend.
nice.
Yeah, they're both great.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So you want to keep your neck warm because it gets real cold.
Yes, yeah. And the hat thing, you know. I always have to wear a beanie.
Well, you got to fit in. We literally, my wife and I will joke about Ben having like an outfit. Like we have like a, what do you call it?
Puffy coat?
Well, that, yeah, like, but I mean, there's like a, when you have to go to work, you have to wear a specific kind of outfit. What's it called?
Words are hard, you know me. Uniform.
Uniform. Ben has a uniform, 100%. And it is,
Yes.
it's like puffy jackets. They're just a specific kind of hat,
Yes.
right? Like, I'm jealous. That's what I want to wear. That's why I have all that stuff now.
Yeah, how many beanies do you have?
Oh, she's got like 80, and I wear them when I can. So, okay, so your neck is cold. You're trying to be able to wear a hat, do all the tennis. So walk me through the concerns, the biggest issues. I know you mentioned the hair feels thin and you don't feel like you have a style. What else is frustrating you about it?
Well, I don't know. I really don't like to do much with my hair. I mean, style-wise, I don't want something that I really have to fuss with. And that's probably why I haven't colored my hair in a really long time. But I don't know. I've been tempted to try, what do you call it? Low lights. But I don't know if low lights would work with my type of hair color. Just to kind of, I don't know, brighten it up, or I don't know. What do low lights do?
That's a great question. So we'll talk about that, and we'll definitely get into it because low lights would be an option, and they can add a lot of dimension and texture to your, not texture like volume, okay? And we'll talk about why not as well. But it can add a lot of texture in terms of movement and dimension to your hair, and it can do a very good job of making your hair pop and make the lighter pieces stand out more, right? And make them actually look brighter. There are a lot of cons to it as well.
Okay.
I
want to hear those.
Yeah. Okay. So you basically are. It sounds like. Don't let me put words in your mouth, but I'm just trying to like get through a little bit of it. It seems as though your kind of major frustrations are you feel like it's a little bit on the thinner side. You're really not seeing the shape or the style. You want it to feel more like there's something going on. It's not just grown out.
Right.
As a whole, that deals with both color and cut. That's a 30,000 foot view, but does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to get into like, there's a lot of nuances to why those things are happening or why you're frustrated with that. And we're going to talk about that a little bit, but walk me through your day-to-day process. Like what, do you shampoo in the morning? You shampoo at night?
Usually in the morning.
Okay.
And I play a lot of tennis. So, and I'll probably shampoo my hair maybe every 3 days.
Okay.
Because I just don't want to deal with it.
I don't blame you at all. All right, that's great. So you shampoo it every 3 days.
Yeah, and I'll use dry shampoo to try and help get through.
Okay.
You know, but it goes pretty, you know, when I first style it, it seems like I have more volume, But then after I play tennis, and I don't sweat too much, but I always have I pull it back, and so I lose a lot of that. So I can't get it back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
It's like I'm good, and then it just goes.
And then it's gone. And
Yeah.
it's really easy to get a little bit of fluff in the very beginning, but getting it to actually hold longer than 15 minutes is a whole nother process.
Right.
Got it. You brought the products and the tools and everything that you use when you style your hair with you?
I did.
Okay, I'm gonna walk through some of those. I just want to see really I need to know step by step what you're doing, what you're using, how you're approaching it. And it doesn't need to be, I don't need to know every once in a while I do this. Like on the normal day, most often, what are we at? So I'm gonna grab those here real quick. Okay. So walk me through what you're using. So first of all, step one, you get out of the shower, you towel blot your hair.
Yes.
Okay. Then step by step, what do you do after that? What's the next thing?
Well, I try and keep it in the towel as long as possible.
Okay.
And then I dry it.
Okay.
Oh, well, actually, first I put on this, it's a 10. It's just a simple
It's like a leave-in.
leave-in thing, and that's pretty much all I use.
And you're using this specifically for?
I don't know, I think to protect my hair, I guess, from heat. Because I'll blow dry it after that, and I'll, do it down, to try and get volume. Put my head down and blow it that way, and try and lift all this up.
So let's put that here. I'm going to bring this little thing over here. So let's start putting those. So let me see what we got. You start with this. This is the first thing that you put in.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yep.
So you start there. You spray that. You towel blot your hair. You wrap it up. You let it sit for a while.
Right.
Okay. By the time you take your hair out of the towel, is it pretty much dry?
No, well, no, not really. But I try and keep it in as long as I can.
Okay. Okay. So there's still a little bit of dampness to it, obviously.
There's still a little bit of dampness.
Then you spray this in. Are you spraying this mainly at the roots? Do you just work it with your hands? Do you comb it through? How do you apply this?
Well, that's the thing. It's kind of a spray, so it's kind of hard to distribute it.
Okay.
So I try and go all around, and then I brush it in.
Okay, perfect. So in a perfect world, your desire is to get it from roots to ends completely. Okay.
I guess.
There's
I don't
nothing
know.
wrong with it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get an idea.
Yeah,
of
I
like
just
where
try
you're-
to get it all over, and I figure if it's on my brush, then that'll kind of distribute it.
Oh, absolutely.
more.
There's a lot of people that will actually take stuff like this, like hairsprays, and spray it on the brush first, then comb it through. So that's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's not.
But I mean, I remember in the day you would just put stuff on your hand and then do that. But that's probably the easiest way to do it.
It
right?
is one of the, I feel like, but to each has their own. As long as we get the process or get the product through. So what's your next step?
So my daughter told me that I had a horrible brush, and she told me that I need to buy a new brush. So
Really?
this is the
Okay.
brush that I bought.
Okay.
And I don't know if this is what this actually means, but it says there's argan oil in the brush,
Infused?
infused. What is that supposed to even do?
That is a really good question. I have seen brushes that have oil dispensers on them.
Yeah.
You literally dispense it well, and to be honest, I'm
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah, how about no?
It
For
sounds-
me,
yeah.
I have not seen
I thought it was pretty color. That's why I got it.
It is a pretty color. I don't know how there would be oil infused in this. Now there are some coatings that you can use that will help deal with static, anti-static. I could not come with words are hard.
Oh, static. That's a good.
Yeah. So there are some ways of getting brushes that will to do that. But I don't know because I don't know the specific brush. I don't know. You can't look at it and go, yes, this has that, or no, this doesn't have that.
It feels good, so
The only thing that I would be thoughtful of or pay attention to, this does there's some movement to those. The bristles don't feel super rigid. Feels pretty comfortable in your hair for the most part. Yeah. The only thing you want to be a little bit mindful of is sometimes these little ball ends. They feel nice when you put them in your hair, but they can also grab hair and pull it. And pull them off. So your hair will get stuck in the ends of those little things. So it doesn't always happen, but it is something to be kind of mindful of. If you notice that you're getting a lot of snagging, that could be why. But as far as the feel of it, it feels good. It's lightweight. So you use this, you comb this through with this, okay? Yep. And then do you step by step next?
Yep.
Before I put
and
words in
then
your
I
mouth.
go to my hair dryer.
Okay. That's
And
a serious dryer. It's got some beef to it.
My daughter gave that to me.
Okay. And how do you like it? Is it working for you?
Yeah, I like it because it's quieter.
Okay.
The one I had before was really loud. So.
Okay.
So yeah, so then I dry it, and like I said, I bend down and I try to get volume. That way, oh, here comes the sun.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Okay, so you tilt over. So you spray this in. Okay,
Brush
you
it
tilt
through.
over. Do you use any brushes or anything when you're using the dryer, or is it just the dryer?
Just my
itself?
hands.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
tilt forward like this, and you just dry it like this, basically.
Yeah, I dry it. I try and just lift my roots up to try and get volume.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is good. You're not doing anything wrong. There's definitely a lot of things that we can kind of work on that are going to help you get volume. The one thing I can say is through this particular process that you're using right now, it's going to be exceptionally hard, almost impossible for you to get lasting volume. It's going to be, I mean, to be very frank, if you can get volume to last any period of time with just this,
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty impressed by that. I'm like, okay, that's good. But that means that your hair has the ability to get some lift to it. A lot of times people will think, oh, my hair's a little bit thinner, so it's going to be really big and it's going to be very light, so it just gets a bunch of volume. And that is not always true. You could have thin hair, right? But still it ends up being kind of heavy, and you can't get the volume that you think that you might just get out of it very easily. So your hair, part of it is just because of cowlicks and stuff, and like where hair is growing, that's allowing you to get a little bit more lift to it. But our hands are very open. There's a lot that we can do to encourage volume, both with the cut, still within your guides, right, of your boundaries of where we need to be, speaking to, I need to be able to pull it back, I want something a little bit easier, all those things. We can work that into a strong shape that still allows for more foundation for volume. And then we walk through a process where you're actually doing a lot of things right. We just need to add a little bit to it. We need to tweak a couple things, add a little bit to it, and then all of a sudden now, I'm not going to say, nor do we want hair that goes up to this. Yeah. I know you have a photo in there somewhere. I know you got a photo of some serious hair that you had at one point. Okay, and I'll allow that to be on you if you decide you want to show it or not. I'll just stand here awkwardly till you do. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It just a heads up. If she wanted us to show, you'll see that right here. And if not, then fair enough. But so I know that, we always think of volume as just like try to get hair big, but we want volume appropriately because we want shade, right? So I'm going to take this out too. I'm just going to hold this. Are you using anything else? So after you're done with the blow dryer, that's basically right now your day-to-day. This is kind of your everyday carry, if you will. This is your everyday.
And then after I dry, then because I've got, you can see my cowlicks back here. I got some weird stuff going on.
I mean, it's not weird. It's just have cowlicks. Okay.
Right, but then I'll go through and with my straightener.
Okay.
And then I'll look for crazy stuff and just kind of try and make it all even.
Okay. When you say crazy stuff, what's crazy stuff?
Well, a lot of times it'll dry fairly straight, but then sometimes I'll get weird curls and stuff, and I'll just take those out to try and make it all look even.
So you're not using this on all of it to finish it. You're literally just polishing off a couple pieces with an iron.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then in the interim, when the days that I'm not washing my hair, then when I wake up in the morning, if I get weird curls, sometimes you drool.
I probably drool more than most, so yeah, that's fair. Okay.
But anyway, then I'll use the straightener to fix it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so is there anything else you need?
Well, and then I'll use that in, if I feel like
this is your dry shampoo.
Dry shampoo.
Okay, and you use this like in between days, in the morning.
If I look like it, like this morning, I would have used it.
Can I spray a little bit of this in
Sure.
here?
It's just it's like powder, right?
Oh yeah. Okay, so it's dry, duh. But it's very dry for, not all dry shampoo, it feels exactly the same. Oh. This actually feels very dry, which is nice. So it feels soft. It doesn't feel like does it get gritty on you at all? Like, have you had one that gets really gritty?
No, I haven't had that.
Oh, okay.
Last summer when my son got married, I had my hair done, and I normally don't do that sort of thing. And so they did my hair for the wedding, and they did like this beachy wave. And my hair, it felt like there was a quarter pound of product on my hair, but it stayed for like almost a week.
So you nailed it, and we're going to talk about that. And people typically don't like to hear this, right? So this is where we need to, not just you, everybody needs to kind of meet somewhere. There's got to be a little bit of give and take, okay? Fact of the matter is, and this is kind of why we're talking about it, this is not for me to beat you up, because this is not a you thing. This is everybody, for the most part, does this. This is super, super common, that you want volume, you want lift, right? We want control, we want our hair to stay where we put it, all of those things. But we also don't like the feeling of product in the hair at all. We want it to feel very soft. So we either don't want to use product because product typically makes us feel like there's something in our hair and we don't like that texture, or we haven't found the product because every time we use a product, it just makes it lay flat. It doesn't get the volume that I want to see, so I'm just getting it to lay flat. And so then most people kind of push product away, and then it becomes frustrating because they're not getting the volume that they want. And the fact of the matter is, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard this, you're a stylist, you're trying to sell us product, that's why you say you need product. And I go, I don't care where you buy it. You buy it anyway. Don't buy it from me. Don't use it, whatever. This is not an opinion. This is unfortunately or fortunately the way hair functions. If we have hair that feels really clean, it doesn't get volume. It's the same reason that if you've ever had your hair done for a special event, like a wedding or something, more often than not, they're going to tell you either come with dirty hair or they are going to load it with product, because they need to make it dirty to get it to react, to give it the foundation, to get the volume. The second hair is soft and texture. I can always say, if you put product in your hair and you get done and it feels like there's nothing in it, there might as well be nothing in it. And you're gonna get those same results from it. And so where we have to find the middle ground is giving our hair enough texture to where it'll get volume, but not go so overboard that we can't stand it. We have to be like, I need to give a little bit, which is, I need to understand there's gonna be a little bit of texture in this so that I can get a little bit, which is I'm gonna get a little bit of volume. And then knowing that, well, more texture in many cases means a little bit more volume. How far do I wanna be over on the spectrum? Like, how much texture am I willing to give up? And then does that create enough volume? I'm happy with the result I get, even though it feels maybe a little bit more, like there's a little bit more product in my hair. I know if I use less and it's softer, I'm going to lose some of that volume. And maybe I'm going to lose some of that volume. That's okay. I would rather not have the texture and not have the volume than have the texture and have the volume. And then that also becomes not a bad thing, right? Because technically speaking, volume isn't about big hair. It's kind of what we were just saying. Volume is about having volume in the right places, which many times means removing volume. So it means, hey, the more volume you have here, I'm like a broken record on this. I feel like I've said this so many times in videos, but the more volume you have here, the flatter this is going to look, right? And the second I take volume out of here, the more volume it's going to appear that there is up here, even when there's not. It's just an optical illusion. But the bigger I make this, right, out here, if I could get this really, really big, this is going to start looking flatter. Just when you look at it dead on, it's going to be like, oh, I feel like that's a little bit flatter. If I pin this, all of a sudden now it's like, wait a minute, I feel like we're getting a little bit more volume. We're not touching any of this at all. So I'm not saying that that's what we would do with the cut, but I mean, it's just a thing to understand that take it away many times is how we get it.
Right.
And if we combine taking it away in one area and getting a little bit in the other area, it feels like there's a ton. And a lot of times what people do is they just try to get big hair. It's like, well, now you got it big, but now it's going to feel flat up here. Then you can try to get that bigger, and then that's going to feel flat over here. Then you're going to get this bigger, and it just goes back and forth, and you end up with this afro of crazy hair that like is, looks great on some people, but doesn't work on some people. You know what I mean? So it's just something that, like, more food for thought. Walk me through the biggest frustrations aside from your, like the thinness or anything like that. Well, first of all, let's talk about the thinness. Has your hair always been kind of thinner? Have you noticed that's changing at any point, or? I can take this for you. You don't need to hold on to it.
It's changed a bit, just,
Okay.
Stressful year, that type of thing. Isn't there a name for that when you go through stress that like 3 months later you lose hair?
There is, and words are hard, and it's okay. It'll come to me in like an hour, and I'll just blurt it out in the middle of our conversation. But stress is a massive player in hair loss. Was there anything else that changed? Did you start noticing significant amount of hair loss right during that one time? Or was it just like you felt like you were already noticing a little bit and it just kind of amplified a little bit over that time?
It started slow, but I think it's getting better now.
Do you feel like you're seeing, I'm seeing some new regrowth right even in here.
Yes. And you mentioned static earlier. And after I dry my hair, you know what it's like when a kid takes a balloon and rubs it on their head? That's what I get, like, right here.
That's a thing in Central Oregon.
All these new, they just stick straight up.
You definitely are getting a lot of new growth in there. I'm gonna steal this in here real quick if I can, which is definitely a good thing, but also problematic for styling. Like, I mean, like, you know, not even just for static, but I mean, like, it can make it actually really hard to get the shape that you want. But yeah, when you do this and you see how much of that is,
Oh, yeah.
you know, like there's a lot. Let's see, let me put my black shirt in front of it. Maybe that'll be a little better. See if I can get this. Right, yeah, I'm trying to see if the camera can get it there. See all of this stuff, right? Now let me make sure. Show me when you pull your hair in a ponytail. Pretend like you're pulling your hair in a ponytail right now.
Well, I've got two styles. I do a ponytail for tennis in the summertime. I'm about like this because I need to go over my visor.
Okay, what do you use when you pull that back? What do you put in it?
Oh, you know, just one of those. It's like they've got like cotton or cloth over the top of them, you know.
Okay, it's a little rubber band though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that the spot? Is that what you're saying?
And tell me about when you do it in wintertime, like right now.
Oh, in the wintertime, then I'll just take this part.
Okay.
And then put it.
And that's what you've been doing lately? Mm-hmm. And how long have you been doing this? When do you start? What's wintertime for you? When is that?
It's like, what, November?
Okay, so probably since November.
Yeah.
So a few months. Not
a
super
few
long
months.
Time. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. These probably sound like ridiculous questions, right? Like, but the reason behind it is because when you pull it back, I'm looking to see that when you pull all your hair up like this, right? If all of those pieces that are falling out of here are all like the same length, they all land like right exactly where that hair gathers together, where you put that band, then I have to assume, it is an assumption, but I have to think that part of that also can be new growth mixed in with some pieces that are snapping off, breaking off when you pull your hair back, because even the smaller the rubber bands, so think of it this way, the smaller the surface area, the harder it is on your hair, right? You know how beautiful big old massive scrunchies are? They're pretty, right? But they are less damaging simply because they're a larger surface area, okay? Doesn't mean they're not damaging at all. It just means that compared to like a tiny little rubber band, that's a lot of pressure in one little area, right? And so that can be enough on certain hair textures to just snap ends off. Or imagine that that new growth is actually growing in, but then it gets to that length and you put that rubber band on it and it's just breaking the ends off and they never get longer, right?
That could very well be.
Yeah, so all of those things could play a role. The thing that kind of comes to me on this, and I could be wrong. Like I always say, when it comes to thinning hair, like hair thinning, I always tell people like, hey, go talk to a doctor, get like all of the levels checked, right? Blood levels, like figure out are there any nutrient deficiencies? Is iron low? Because that can affect it. It also can just be like, hormonal things, like as we age, like go through perimenopause and menopause, like all of those things have an effect. Stress has an effect. Eating has an effect. Dietary changes, meaning can have an effect. I eat well, but I still change what I ate completely, went on a nutrition plan, right? And all of a sudden, boom, that can change what we see with our hair. And then, like there's so many things that can affect it. So it's kind of like we always default there. And I always say like, hey, we need to look that's not me. That's somebody else needs to do that. But that's something that we should think about. And then when it comes to the cut, then I'm trying to determine, is there anything that we can address with this, the way we cut it or the way you style it, to minimize any of our role, your role in the, the physical role. When I look at yours, the thing that kind of surprises me is it looks like you've got some pretty good density at the scalp, like everywhere. Like usually you're going to see like a pretty good amount of, like you see it pretty thin through here, but the amount of hair that you have down here, it gets very thick and then it gets very thin. And that to me almost feels more like hair is either breaking off, right? It's not just thin, it's thin in certain areas, but it makes it feel like this hair is breaking off only because it also just happens to be exactly where that lands in that ponytail, right? So I would probably, if you can, in perfect shape, I'd probably say, let's try to minimize that somehow. Also, again though, we have to ride that line. I play tennis. I would rather play tennis and deal with a little bit of thinning at the ends than not be able to do this, because I have to figure out some way to get my hair back, and all of the ways I get my hair back are all going to create some sort of damage. So I just don't pull it back now, and now I can't play because my hair is in my face, or I can't get it off my neck or whatever. So
I could use the clip. Clip would be better, right?
In some ways, it's just a matter of where that tension is. So some of those clips that are like big and then the actual clip is really small, and then it's a lot of pressure right on that one little area. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like we got to think of the surface area, how much of your hair is being held. Like me holding it with my hands like this, that's a different thing. If I could just hold it back like this, I'll just do this while you play tennis. Run it back and forth, you know? But if you could do something like that where your hand is so big, there's so much surface area there, that's not a lot of tension on one little spot, right?
So it's the tension.
It's the tension, but it's all of that tension on how big is the area that tension is being spread over. If it's like a bobby pin, right, and you just put that in, that's the tiniest little thing that's holding all that hair. There's a lot of tension on that to get stiff enough to hold the hair back, right? Versus like my hands, this is a lot of, I'm still holding it back, but there's a lot of space here for that tension to be distributed. So it's not all on one little point. It's spread out over a much larger point, so it's just not as aggressive. Does that make sense? Okay, talk to me about two things. One, length. Not that we're going to cut it short or or leave it long. Perfect world. Don't think about the layering, don't think about the thinness or anything. Perfect world, how long would your hair be if you could have it be any length?
Well, this is too long for sure because, you know, like if I put my purse on my shoulder, I don't, you know. I would like to be somewhere between here and here.
Okay.
You know, not above my chin, below my chin for sure.
Okay.
And so that when I wear my hat, I have some hair coming out.
Okay.
That's kind of where I am for the winter.
That's a pretty fair range. I mean, I like it. This is all good stuff. It's just I think I'm working on like, I didn't expect you to be like that open to a length change there. So that's okay. That gives us a lot of options. So in a perfect world, you'd be comfortable between above collarbone, like say up off of the traps or the shoulders, right? The shoulders and below the chin. So somewhere really like in this range, you're like good. You don't have a preference as to one of longer versus shorter. You're like, I don't care. As long as it's shorter than this and longer than this, we're good anywhere in there.
Yeah, anywhere
Okay.
I think would be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you look at your face, awkward question, 5, 4, incoming. When you look at your face, what are your favorite attributes? That's such a hard question for people to answer, right?
I don't know. Probably my eyes.
Come here, babe. What do you see? I see beautiful smile. I love your eyes. I'm seeing other stuff too, but Kev can come in too.
Oh, yeah.
Come over, actually, all the way over here.
You want me to look in the mirror?
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at her and see, what do you see?
Smile, definitely cheeks,
Cheekbones.
and eyes. Yeah. So
Yeah,
your
definitely.
whole face is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
And it shouldn't be awkward. We should normalize like
Being
saying
able
we
to,
love
yeah,
ourselves,
yeah,
right?
true.
Yeah.
But it's always awkward. Like, I know I would be the same way. I'd be like, my, you know, easy to say what we don't like, a little harder to say
She
what we
probably
do.
wants a Deanna cut.
Oh my gosh, go sit down. But it is true. Okay, so, but when you look at yourself, you feel good about your eyes, like as one of the things that you kind of notice.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Is there anything that is in any way self-conscious for you? Anything that you want to maybe like just take weight tension away from? Maybe that bothers you?
This part kind of bothers me.
What bothers you about it?
I don't know. It's really light and really thin. It kind of makes me think of Cruella de Vil.
You know, we have clients that legitimately we put that in their hair on purpose and the rest of their hair is black because they love that so much. I love it. Okay, so this feels a little bit too light. Do you feel like this is just... Sorry?
It's very thin too. But
Okay.
can't do anything about that though.
Well, so there are some options actually. But do you feel like the fact that it makes your hair look thin bothers you, or is it the brightness next to the dark in comparison to the rest of your color that bothers you?
Yeah, I think it's the brightness next to the dark.
Yeah, because when you look to this side, right, it's quite dramatic. Blonde. I mean, not. We'll call that blonde. Blonde, and then darker right behind it, right? So there's a lot of contrast there. So that makes you feel like it's too much contrast.
Yeah, it's because
Okay.
it's just like this one spot, you know.
Okay.
I mean, the other stuff seems to blend in pretty well.
Okay. Which is hilarious because I love this, but this is why I go through consultations and we don't do what I want. We got to make sure what makes sense for you.
Well, it reminds me of my grandmother.
Oh, is that why?
Yes.
Is that why it okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair.
But
Okay. So I'm about to basically just word vomit on you. A lot of different things about what's going on with your hair right now and some things about the way we should cut it. We'll talk about the color real quickly that you were talking about before. But first things first, you need your hair to get pulled back in a ponytail. Okay, so that's the number one thing that we need to pay attention to, in my opinion, is that we need to be able to still get this back. And we also need to take into consideration how you're functionally styling your hair right now. There are pros and cons to what we do and how we layer it. So if I'm looking at your hair, first thing we need to understand, and I can use this, the first thing that people need to understand is thinner hair. Okay, so when we bring out your hair about this side, see if I can, hold on, let me just close this because this is a little bit bright right here. That's this one. Okay. So when I come like this, right, we'll look at the side like down in here. Let me give you a mirror so you can see this too. Should hold this up. Yeah. So you look at the side right here, and basically what we get concerned is, well, we don't want any sort of layering because this is going to start looking really thin. The further your hair gets from your hairline, okay, so that means this part of your hairline as well as the hairline back here, the less it supports layering. Yeah. So the less it can support layering down here. What will end up happening is the more we layer this, the thinner this is going to look. It's going to get thinner. We're just taking less hair, taking hair away from there. So there's just less to fall down there, right? And so it's just going to look thinner and thinner. And so the concern is, well, we don't want to layer it because we don't want it to look too thin. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's pretty much the standard for people. That's usually people think. And there is truth to that, in that, yes, if we actually layer this up here, then this is going to look, it's going to be a little less hair down there, so therefore it's going to look a little bit thinner. But how much we layer it can change how thin this looks, and where we layer it can change how dense it looks. So the first thing I always say is, when we're dealing with thinner hair, is I always say the closer I can get this to the neckline, see how it looks thicker up here? Not that we're going to do it that short, but see how it looks thicker up here? And as we get longer, it starts to look thinner. Because that's hair that's coming from above, that's hair that's coming from way up here, right? That you're seeing that thinness. See how it looks thinner here, but it looks thicker back here? Mm-hmm. Right? That's because that hairline is right here, not all the way up here. So it's not as far, this isn't as far from the hairline as this is far from the hairline, right? So this is getting a little bit more density, and there's a lot more hair follicles back here that are creating this amount of density through here. There's very little hair follicles in here that are creating this density. So we kind of have two things working, kind of against us, or that we need to be aware of. Now, layering basically just means that when I go in here, if I take a section from here, right, to the occipital bone back here, and I comb this down, if I leave all of this stuff one length and I don't layer that, that's how dense it's going to look. Okay.
Very dense.
Yeah, that's it. Now, so we're going to get into that in just a second. But the point being is, I can determine how much of this I want to layer. Maybe we only layer just this up here, and you leave all this down here, and now that does not look a lot thinner than where you're at right now. Because when I do this, it's not adding that much density to it. Does that make sense? So point being is that we have some control over how we layer this to give you some layering if we want to, and still leave you feeling kind of, like you've got a certain amount of hair. So, or a density in hair. The other area that this is really looking thin, or not the other area, but the other thing to think about where this is looking really thin, is it's only looking thin right in here. If you look back here, like from here back, this doesn't look all of that thin at the bottom. I mean, like, it looks thin on the thinner side, but it doesn't look terribly thin. It's not, you can see a lot more up through here, right?
Right.
Okay. All of this is going somewhere, I promise. I'm just kind of walking you through why things work the way they work, so that we can understand why, if we decide to layer it, why we would layer it. Pros and cons. If it's me and you're open to bringing that length up, then I'm going to take this length as close to that neckline as I can get it, roughly, right, with still leaving us enough length to work within the boundaries that we have. So I basically have to think, all right, well, then we need to get this hair back in a ponytail. Thankfully, you have a higher neckline, so that means I can have this shorter and still get you back into a ponytail, right? So we need to be able to get this stuff up off the shoulders, or up off your neck. But at the same time, with that in mind, I'm going to go, well, how short is that going to be? Okay, well, how short can I get this length to still allow for those things? Because the more I take out of here, the denser this is going to appear. The same thing goes, though, with the front. And here's where we kind of run into a pro and a con, okay? The pro, if I'm looking at your hair saying how to make this look as dense as possible, like I'm going to go all in on just making this look thick, then I'm going, all right, I'm going to bring this length up here, somewhere in that range, and I'm going to add some layering in here because it doesn't look thin above the comb. It doesn't look thin up here. It just looks thin below there. So I'm going to get rid of that stuff because we don't need that. It's not helping us at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We understand why I would say that, right?
Yeah.
The con to this is that now, all of a sudden, This stuff doesn't come back into one ponytail as easily. You've got pieces that fall out. So it's not to say that there's a simple fix, right? That it's like, this is what we do, and it addresses all the issues. It's to say that we basically have to determine how do we kind of like, where's the middle? What is the most important, right? If we want it to look more dense, then there's a process to making it look more dense, which, crazy enough as it's going to sound, is going to have some sort of internal layering, something, maybe not dramatic, but when I say internal layering, I mean like around the front, right? Maybe not a ton back in the back, but maybe there's some softness around the front. That length comes up a little bit, goes into kind of like a bob-ish shape, but there's a little bit more movement in the front, right? That's going to just get the ends off that are going to make it look the strongest around the perimeter. The layer is going to lighten it up a little bit, help you to get a little bit more volume. So that's kind of our dense look. Then we have to go now, how much longer do we need to leave that stuff? And each step that we leave it longer is going to look a little bit thinner at the ends to get to the place where now we have the comfort of being able to pull it all back into one ponytail. Are you following me there? Yeah. Does that make sense? So that's kind of where we end up landing with that. And I don't think there's a right and wrong. Now, with all of that said, and that's a lot of information. With all that said, though, just kind of a heads up, the stuff like, so you pull all this back in a ponytail, right? Most of the stuff I would have to cut it because of the amount of hair you have. And because we wouldn't be taking those pieces ridiculously short, you'd actually be able to surprise, like you can get this twisted and then pulled back in a ponytail. And most of those pieces, because there's not very many of them there, they're not like super thick and like resistant. A lot of that is not going to fall out as easily as it seems like it would fall out. So you can ride a fine line with that, where you can get away with having a little bit of those layers. So there might be a payoff, and some of that we can tuck, or another option, probably not the most fun option, but another option is on the days you pull it back and you literally spray it back with hairspray just to get it back up off your face. Because the amount that you have that's going to fall down, it's not going to be like all of a sudden, oh my gosh, all of that's falling in my face now. That's just not how it's going to work. What's going to happen is it's going to be like, oh my gosh, now that part, let's see, let's take some of that out of them. That stuff is wanting to fall down, a little bit. And so I'll twist this back, pull that back. Oh gosh, now I have this one little piece maybe, and that stuff you can twist back and you just spray that in. And it's so light that a hairspray, like you have or whatever, spray, lock it in, it'll stay for the days that you're playing. And then the days that you want it to be down and styled, it's got a little bit more movement and texture, and you actually get more of what you want out of it. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, if I could get it behind my ear, that would be good.
I would definitely say, and we definitely have some room there. I would definitely say to you could leave it behind, long enough to go behind your ear without question. It's just this stuff like, let's go to this side. You can really see it, I think, more dramatically on this side. You can see like it looks thick to there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that looks dense. It's just this area right here that the more of that I can get out of there, it's quickly going to look thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker, right? Mm-hmm. So this is our shortest version, if that makes sense. Like, so you go, okay, if I got to there, that's going to look thick. We don't need to go a lot shorter than that. Would it be a little bit, different? Like maybe look a tiny bit denser if we brought that length up a little bit more? Yeah, but not a lot. You're really going to you're not gaining a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So that's going to make our densest. So then the question just becomes, well, where do we compromise there, right? But even a little bit's going to feel denser. But if we can get it closer to like this length, right, or at the chin, that's you can look at that and see that's quite a massive change in the density, Yeah,
definitely.
And so the minute we do that, if we look at the front, that just comes to here, right? That's easily behind the ear. That's not just behind the ear. That's at the bottom of behind the ear, right? And that is actually almost to the place where it's like coming back in a ponytail. It's very close to the thing where I do think that if you just twisted that piece and then took it all and put it in a ponytail and just a couple sprays, 98% of that problem is going to be taken care of. And the difference that you get with movement and shape in here, it's an entirely different haircut. If I didn't take any length out of your hair, none of this, and just did that, you would feel like this is a whole different haircut. And it actually gets me a lot more volume, oddly enough, which is going to sound weird, but I'll show you why. But it actually gets you a lot more volume, and at the same time, still fit in all the concerns, right? Now, we couple that with bringing this length up a little bit here too, as well, right? So we bring that length up, and we take some of this stuff out. And then I lightly go in and just kind of break up For lack of better words, we will call them layers, but it's really just to kind of lighten it up a little bit without making it look thinner at the bottom. You're going to feel like you have twice the amount of hair, but still, for the most part, be able to get all of it back easily into one ponytail. And if you have a piece like this that falls forward, you just bring it back and spray it.
Yeah.
Does that sound all right?
That sounds good. I'd be willing to do that for sure.
Now let's just hope that it actually works out the way that I just sold that it would work out. Color. Okay, so you talked about lowlights. Lowlights, just so you know, lowlights and highlights are the same thing. It just means that lowlights are darker than your natural color or the overall color, the base color. Highlights are lighter than that base color, okay? Same exact process. The thing that you want to think about is lowlights typically mean that you're depositing color on the hair. You're not lifting hair to a higher or brighter color. Typically speaking, that's easier on your hair to deposit color onto it. Lifting becomes where the damage is. For volume purposes, many people want to lift their hair because it blows the cuticle out a little bit. They get a little bit of that texture. It doesn't overly damage it, and they feel like they got a little bit more volume. So that's one thing to think, that your hair actually, after you get lowlights, will feel, in some cases, even a little bit more conditioned. Pros or cons, because we just talked about perfectly healthy hair gets no volume, right? Or has a harder time getting volume. So that's something to think about, but that is such a small thing that I wouldn't even like put that on the radar. It's just like knowledge, but kind of forget about it at the same time, right? Lowlights for your hair absolutely will make pieces look brighter. My concern for yours is the only place that you feel frustrated with your color is right here. The minute I put in lowlight, or that one would put in lowlights, you're gonna see more of this, which I look at and absolutely love because it makes everything pop, right? So like this to me adds a lot of contrast. It's got a bunch of dimension. You add a little bit of layering in the front, a little bit of movement, and all of a sudden it's like this really striking look. But also, it's more of, the whole purpose of lowlights is to get this kind of, almost that kind of look, right? Is to get that dimension in there. So the fear would be, it'll make, as you can see, right? When you put, like, this almost looks like there's a little darker piece right back here almost. And when you frame that against that white piece, it looks much brighter and whiter than this side that doesn't feel quite as bright and vibrant because there isn't that one little dark piece right next to it. That little piece right here does a little bit, but this is still a little bit more dramatic on that side because the piece right behind it almost looks a little darker, you know, if you will. It's like shadow a little bit more. So the concern would be that you go through, you add more of that in, and now you end up with a whole head that feels like this. And you go, oh, well, I didn't like that. Now I've got Coeur d'Alene all over my head. So from the dimension point, absolutely, it'd be beautiful. Would it make the other bright, like the gray pieces, look brighter? Yeah, absolutely. It'd make them pop. Is there a lot of maintenance to it? No. There's actually very minimum maintenance to something like that if you're doing salt and pepper, right? And not doing a completely different color. So in this specific format, if you're doing that, there's almost no maintenance to them, only because you can only do that so often. You can't, usually with highlights or lowlights, what would happen is you would come in, we would put the, let's say lowlights, we put the lowlights in, okay? Then the next time, we might do the same thing. But then the following time, we're going to look at it, we're going to go, well, I added lowlights both last time and the time before that. It's starting to look dark because I can't only add lowlights to the exact same places I did last time. Each time he's going to get a little bit more. So now overall, you're looking a little bit too dark. We need to lighten some pieces back up to give you the original feeling where you had your natural color with some lowlights. You can't do this on this hair because getting that gray natural is possible, but much more challenging. And if people don't know how to do it, I am not good at it. Like I would literally tell my clients, don't have me do that. It's such a different level of expertise on color. That's a very nuanced thing. So it's just much harder. So you just have to let it fade out. And so you get it done. You just don't do it along the part line or along the hairline. You do it internally in here. Then you never see that grow out line. 6 months from now, you go, well, let's add some more maybe, or it just is kind of gone, but you never realize it's gone. So from the maintenance perspective and the overall damage perspective, I would say it's 100% go for it. I would tell anybody, like it adds so much dimension to the skin. It adds so much more richness. I will say if you added more depth in here, that will look denser, although we still have another option I'll show you at the end of the cut. That will look denser because darker hair always looks thicker than the lighter hair, right? Mm-hmm. That's just how light reflects off of it. So that's not me saying that to anybody. I'm not telling you to color your hair. I'm just saying the way the light reflects, it had a tendency to look a little bit thicker. So if you wanted to do low lights for that reason, and you're just trying to break this piece up and that piece up and make them look a little bit more matched to this, then that would make it look denser, but that's going to be very noticeable in that area. And that will look like looks like it grows out really quickly. So there's actually more maintenance in that than you might expect.
Yeah, and I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want maintenance. And I guess the people that I know that have lowlights, they tend to have more of a solid gray or, and then they add the lowlights in. And I got a pretty mixed bag.
You have a lot of lowlights already, right? So yeah, you're not in a situation, I don't think that you would need it. If you came in, you're like, I don't care what you do anything, like, let's just go for it. And we're doing like a makeover. Then I might put them in only to give it more dimension. But even then I'd be like, we're doing it really to see a change, not because you need it to be done. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing it just because I need some pieces to pop and I want to add a little bit more dimension. I'm really trying to get after it to get a result, but not because I look at it and go, this makes it so much better. It would make it different, not enhanced. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's not something that you couldn't do. It's not something you shouldn't think about, but it's not something that I would tell you all in, like 100%, you need to go do that immediately. It'd be a lot better.
Well, thanks for telling me, because I didn't really understand exactly how they worked, and how it would grow out.
It's a very different thing, especially when you're talking about what you're doing here with salt and pepper lowlights. That's kind of also a very different bag than standard color. Like, you put these pieces in much finer than you put in thick other, color lowlights, because black is so contrasting that it makes it look much more thick than you think that it's going to look. So you actually have to be you approach them a little bit differently. But yeah, I mean, again, something to think about, but not something you need to do. So what I'm thinking, bring that length up probably into, I'm going to say right about in here. I'm going to start in here. The thing is, I need to leave it long enough that if we layer it from here down, right from your chin, to make that area in the front look a little bit thicker, I need to have enough length to see layering in there. If I take it, let's say, for instance, to your chin, layer, and there's no layering. Does that make sense? Because it's all that length. So I need to leave a little bit in here to kind of see some movement in there. So I'll probably end up leaving it a little bit, the length a little bit. I'll start it on the longer side. We'll add in those layers. I'll do a little bit of light, kind of like lightening this stuff up in the back a little bit to give us a little bit more movement. All of these things to enhance the illusion of more density in your hair. If we need to bring the length up a little bit more because I feel like we can just get a much better look and it's still within your range of comfort, then I might bring that length up a little bit more. But yeah, we're going to start on a little bit longer side. So
one other thing. What about I always feel like it goes flat back here.
So that's part of the lightening the stuff up in the back.
Okay.
So the real way that you address this is through layering. So it goes flat back there, and it goes flat back there partly because of the way it grows and because it's heavy. Okay. So you have a cowlick, you have a pretty severe cowlick. I'm going to turn this around so you can kind of see, we'll have you look up the ceiling. So you can see this grows this way, this grows this way, this grows this way, you see it, right? This way. And this is pretty aggressive, but it doesn't mean you can't work with it, right? And in reality, this stuff right here, think about it, you're not going to style it this way. Ideally, you're going to style that this way. So if I take this and go this way, for instance, it actually kind of gives us a little bit of lift right there. It doesn't lay as flat. The problem is it splits because you have this other cowlick right here, so you can split. So the way we address that typically is we get this stuff short enough to get control out of it to actually stay where we put it, okay? Because when it gets long like this, you're not going to, just be point blank, you're not going to get control out of it to get it to do what you want it to do. And if you do, it's not going to stay there very easily because it's just long, right? So it's just heavy. That's how hair is. It just kind of gets heavy and it kind of does what it wants to do. If we take it too short, imagine we cut it this long. You're not going to get control out of that because it's going to do whatever it wants to do. I'm not combing this and getting it to stay somewhere. It's too short, right? We need enough length to get bend. Bend is where you actually get control, okay? So you don't get control from curl at the ends and you don't get it from board straight hair. It actually needs to have some bend all the way from roots all the way to the ends. If we can get that to hold, you actually get a little bit more control out of your hair. But your hair has to be short enough to do that. So I'm going to ride kind of a fine line on yours of I'm not going to be layering this, if I'm completely honest, enough in the back to get that to be easily controllable, okay? Because for me to get it to the place where it's easier for you to control and you just naturally hey, we have to use a round brush, we're introducing a lot more technique to the way you style your hair to get the benefit of that layering out of it so that you can actually get this to control. Does that make sense? So I can fix the concern through cutting it shorter. Now, even though I've done that, if you go home and I don't show you and you don't feel comfortable or you don't want to spend the time messing with it to get it to do that, It's not going to do that. Like it needs to have, all I'm doing is putting a foundation in it. So the foundation isn't worth it. If it would work better, having us a little bit more length, but maybe it still splits, but the rest of the shape functions better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. But with that said, there are some ways, like I am going to kind of work at this a little bit to try to give us a little bit of control. But also, when we walk through the styling process, that's going to play a big role in it too. That plays almost a larger role than the cut on some level. So once we get you through that, that'll help. And there are some little tricks to how you can get this to like, actually go in like this and pull it out like that. And you can get it to keep from clipping or from splitting and then actually get a little bit more lift. But when you look down and now look at yourself, you don't want unless you want a beehive. Like, are we going like, again, there's a picture. Unless you want that really, really big, which, you want some lift in there, right? But a lot of that lift too, like a little bit goes a long way. And a little bit is like, even like that, right? Like that's like, it doesn't feel super flat. There's a little bit of lift to it. You get a little bit of movement and you couple that with the right shape through here, this laying in a little bit. And all of a sudden this doesn't feel quite as parted and flat. It just feels like flat when it goes like this, So it's just minor little things that we can play with the way we style it. But to really cut that out, it is an option. Like you can layer all of that out, those ends out, but it's just it introduces just another potential concern.
Yeah.
So, I just don't know if it's worth it, right? And I wouldn't want to do it. It'd be easy to go through and just layer your hair all out and make it actually look quite a bit denser, and I could style it, it'll look great right now. And then you're going to get home and be really annoyed with me for doing that, right? So, it's an option. And we can show you how to do it. And you might learn how to do it and be like, oh, this is actually really quite easy to do. But I still don't want to take the time to do that, right? So 9 out of 10 days, it's not done. And you're frustrated with it, except for that one day that you're like, cool, we're going out tonight. Now it looks great. But I'd rather it just look normal now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And look better, the other days. So we'll bring that length up. We'll add the layers through here. We'll give it, break up the internally a little bit. We'll walk you through the styling process. At the end of the day, if we get done and you feel like, hey, I want to layer this a little bit more, let's go for it. I think I'd like to, give that a shot. I'm down to do it. I can do it. It doesn't have to be when it's wet. I can do it whenever. I just don't want to start there and then not be able to turn wet.
Okay, that sounds good. Fair enough.
Easy enough. Fair. I'm going to steal this from you.
Okay.
We're going to get you shampooed and then we'll go from there. Come with me. Okay, you made it. Now, if you've made it this far, you watched the consultation and we are about to dive into the haircut. Before we do that, I want to make sure that I take a quick second to just say that if you do like this content and you want me to be able to provide more of this to you, I need your help with the algorithm. So make sure that you comment below, tell me how much you love it, share this with your friends, and it's totally free to subscribe. So if you want to do that so you can find more videos that I post, you should probably do that. Subscribe. Let's get back to the haircut. First things first, we're going to comb your hair out. Just get some of the tangles out. So we'll walk you through the whole drying process, okay? But let's just imagine you just got out of the shower. I'm just gonna kind of walk you through the first part of it right now. You would get out of the shower, you towel out your hair, and honestly, this is when you apply product. So if you're gonna wrap it up into a ponytail, like into a towel, great, but don't let it get dry. You don't want it dripping wet, but you don't want it too dry either, because what will happen is certain areas, especially when you have thinner hair or finer hair even, certain areas will dry quicker. So you'll get one area that's pretty dry by the time you take it down, and other areas that are pretty wet or quite a bit more damp. Small thing, but then when you add product to it, it's going to dilute that product more in some areas. It's not going to be even distribution, and it can react a little bit differently. Not as dramatic when you're using what you're using, which I'm going to actually use an oil in your hair, which is kind of similar, but not really like that. But it's just to help smooth it out the ends a little bit, and just kind of like make it easier to comb through while I'm cutting it. But on volumizing products, it does make a difference. Like we don't want hair to be dry in one area and damp in the other. We want it to be even consistently damp so that it distributes the same way. Because I want it to have the same amount, wherever I'm putting it. If I put it on the top, I want that from the top, from roots to ends, I want that evenly distributed all the way through. So I can get that actual bend that we talked about that creates true volume. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so put the product on and then towel, then wrap it up.
Then you can wrap it up in a towel, yeah.
Oh, I never would have thought of that.
Yeah. Now, are you always parting your hair on the side, or do you ever flip the other way?
I always do it that way, yeah. It just seems to be where it lands, so.
So right about in there. It seems a little further over.
Yeah.
See if we can
I just kind of let it drop. Yeah, that looks about right.
Right in there. As long as I'm close. Now I'm going to put a tiny bit of this in. Okay. Part of the reason that I'm putting this in is because it makes it nicer to comb through while I'm cutting it. It gives it a little bit of smoothness at the end. Do you need this? Absolutely? No. Part of the reason I'm using it is because it's an oil. And people typically feel that if you've got thin, finer hair, you can never use products like these because they're just too much. So part of it is to show you like, hey, one, you actually can use these if you need them to help smooth your hair out a little bit. They're okay. We just need to know how to use them and how to use the other things we need to get the volume necessary. So they are an option, but they can actually smooth your hair out a little bit. And for me, it's just a cutting thing. So I'm using just a little bit. I'll probably wipe half of that off, actually. So one pump.
What kind of oil is that?
That's the Way oil. It's from a company called Way. It's a light oil, which is why I like it. I won't put a bunch of it at the roots. I'm just going to kind of work it through the ends. But it'll still get a little bit through the roots as I'm combing through your hair while we're cutting it. But this is really just, I want a little bit more smoothness on just those very mid-shaft and ends on yours. Not a big deal, but... Okay. All right, and now... This is where the rubber meets the road, where we hope that I don't mess up. I've done this once before, so I feel pretty good about this. We'll find out. All right, so if you look all the way down. Okay, one last chance to tell me not to cut it any shorter. After this, it comes off fast.
Good to go.
Turn it around here just a little bit. Right there. I'm just gonna bring that length like right about in here to begin with. So now, tell me again how long you've lived in Bend?
I think it's got 8 years now.
And where'd you move from?
Northern California.
Really? And how do you like Bend by comparison?
Well, where we were in California, it was really nice. We were in the redwoods and everything, but it just got too big. And Bend is just a great little town.
Big just in like terms of population growth?
Yes, yeah.
Or the redwoods got too big? They're just too tall. Those darn trees are just too big to have in my backyard.
Yeah, just urban sprawl, too much traffic. But it's nice having, be able to pop over and go to Portland. You still have the big city, a little bit of a drive, but.
Yeah. So how long have you been playing tennis?
Oh, for quite a while. I took it up when my kids were little. It was like my therapy.
Therapy or escape?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just saying if you have kids, I don't know, like.
Mom has to go play tennis now.
Yeah. Mom's going to be gone for the next 12 hours playing tennis. Maybe look up just a bit. So that's perfect. Yeah, we just moved to Redmond about a year ago. It's over a year. It's like I feel like it's like 2 years now. A year and a half. I will say a year for like the next 6 years, just so you know. And now we're trying to decide if we want to, since we're here so often, if we want to have a place there and then get like a place here, just because we're constantly coming here to film, But it's so sunny, it's so pretty over there that I don't want to give up being there,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you'd have the best of both worlds, really, if you did that.
Yeah. But trying to find a house there, like if we were going to find like a house there and then a small little place here, it's so expensive there to get like the views.
Oh, definitely.
And I feel like that's part of why you go to like you said, what was the house that you were talking about? Like the house was built so that you could actually see the mountains in the front, like framed in the window perfectly.
Yep.
Oh, I'm so jealous. Okay, so some of this stuff down here, I'm just going to get the length out of the way so I can get a better idea of what we want to do with it.
But since you've been in Redmond, it's really changed. Isn't it amazing how quickly stuff changes?
Oh my gosh.
New restaurants.
Yeah. That's the thing that blows me away about Redmond is I feel like, you get there, it's this little tiny, like, one horse town, right? But then there's like all these really nice restaurants that pop up. Like you would expect it to be just like mom and pop shops. And they are, but they're super high end and really, really nice. Like sleepers, little like restaurants that would easily rival anything that's Portland. And Portland's known for its food scene. And they're easily as good, if not better. And they're just like, I just wouldn't expect it driving through there if I didn't know, what it was like. I would not drive through there and be like, oh, there's probably some really high-end restaurants here. It's super cool. I love it. And everybody's like absurdly nice.
Oh, right.
Did you notice that too? Is that just me?
Oh my gosh.
It's like almost, not off-putting, but like it makes you step back a little bit at first when you're not used to people being that friendly. That I was like, are you joking? Or are you like not being real? Are you just doing, oh.
One of the things I noticed is that like when you're in the stores, even little kids are just, oh, hi. They're just, it's not like stranger danger. They just are friendly. And
it's like the small town mentalities, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not a small town really anymore. I mean, at least like, well, Redmond still kind of is, but Bend surely is not like small town. Mm-hmm.
How long have you been doing hair, Justin?
6 months.
Good answer.
Yeah. So story time in just a second. 1995 is when I started. So 30 years now? So when I first started, I was young, right? 18, but I also looked super young. So not like now where I look older than I am probably. Back then I actually looked like I was 12, but I was 18. So there is no way I was getting any respect from anybody. Like, I mean, I got lucky and went to a really, like my parents sent me to a really good school. And then I got out of school and I had to go through like a 2-year apprenticeship program at their salon. Like by the time I hit the floor, I felt like I had a pretty strong education as to what I needed to do. Like I knew I'd already been cutting for 2 years, just not technically being paid on the floor to do it, right? And going through like, constant ongoing education, like courses, like I got really fortunate with the access I had to training. And so I felt confident, but then I'm not even exaggerating. I won't say exactly what, but I'm not kidding. True story. I walked out to go grab a new client. She came back. We went through the consultation. Everything was good. She was excited. I did it. She loved it. Or no, sorry. We walked out to the shampoo bowl. I was going to get her shampooed. She said something, and I was joking. And I said, wait a minute. I go, what, you don't trust me? And she stopped dead in her stare. It was all of her joking, everything stopped. It was 100% serious. And she goes, well, you look like you're 12. And that's it. And I was like, oh, she's not kidding. This got real awkward really quickly. She was dead serious. And then it was just, let's go back to the ship. I was like, come with me. All right. So I used to get dressed up. I would get dressed up in like suits, 3-piece suits, full-on suits. I bought glasses that I didn't need because I thought it made me look older and smarter. Didn't. Okay. But I did all the things. And then I got to the place where like I'd been doing it for, 10 years or I don't know how long, and I had an assistant and done all the things. And I was very confident in my skill set. So I didn't feel the need to try to act like to look a certain way. And then people start asking, I'd be like, well, you know, how long you been doing hair? I'm like, oh gosh, well, what time is it? Noon? So I started at, you know, like, or I would just be like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm hoping, and I would just try to make people feel like I'd never done hair before. That wasn't so much, you know, probably so great either, but yeah. When you look super young, pros and cons. Well, you look super, I mean, like, you know, have you always looked young, or do you just look young?
Well, you don't even know how old I am, so I don't know.
I feel like I do, actually, only because I'm pretty I feel like it was in one of the emails.
Oh, stop.
And I was like, I'm pretty sure I think I do, actually.
Oh, maybe I did say that.
Yeah. How you like that? Okay. So,
I think the key to looking young is having a good sense of humor.
I won't argue with you there. Do you feel like people are more serious nowadays?
I don't know. I try not to be myself, so.
No, that's good. I feel like people are very serious. Or people are very triggered very quickly.
Triggered, that's a good word, yeah.
Like, you know, it's harder for people to just be like, relax, like it's a joke. It's like, don't get offended. It's okay. You know, I feel like that's a little harder for people they're quicker to kind of jump to that's super offensive versus like, you know, like comedians. Whenever I see comedians get canceled, I always think it's funny because I'm like, they're a comedian. They literally get paid to stay on stage and say horrible things that they don't believe. Like, it's a joke. That's the whole point of this.
It's their job.
Yeah. And that's why you're watching that. That's legit. But I can't believe they'd say something so horrible. But you also have to, I mean, like, it's one thing if they're doing something like, you know, on the off stage in their personal life and something happens. But like, if you're watching somebody on stage, like, this is legitimately why you're watching them. Their whole thing is they're supposed to say terrible things. Like, I feel like it's your fault if you get offended, not theirs.
Yeah. Yeah, that does seem rather silly.
Okay. Somebody look up just a little bit. I'm just going to start these right here at your chin to begin with. And then what I'll do is after I dry it, I'm actually going to go through and texturize those ends just a little bit, which also probably sounds a little insane to texturize ends, but it's just going to help them blend a little bit. So it's not going to make them look thin, and it's just at very, very, very bottoms. See what's off the shoulders. Okay, bring this down. And the any of the internal kind of layering, the stuff back here, I'll do after it's dry. I need to get that dry and see the density. Wet hair has a tendency to look a little bit thinner. So, and you take more hair out usually. So when it's drier, I can get a better idea of exactly what's going on, how much there is, how much I can get away with. It's just a little easier to ensure we don't do too much. So do you work, or what do you do now?
Nope, I'm not working. Nope.
Tennis is the main thing, right?
I'm enjoying my life, yes.
Now, what got you into tennis? I know you play a lot.
I was just always into sports when I was younger. I played softball, and I just kind of picked up tennis. Just as a fun thing. I grew up in Minnesota, so I grew up doing a lot of outdoor things.
Is there a lot to do outdoor? I don't know. I'm not familiar with Minnesota at all. So.
Well, where I'm from, you know, in the wintertime, you are ice skating and cross-country skiing and snowmobiling and that kind of thing. In the summertime, land of 10,000 lakes, so you're swimming, canoeing, kayaking, a lot of outdoorsy stuff.
So it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like Bend, or it's kind of similar.
It is similar, except when I was there for Christmas this year, it was 15 below zero when I got there.
Oh my gosh, so it gets quite a bit chillier.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
Just gonna do this. All right, now, I'm gonna have you look down all the way as far as you can real quick. Check this real quick, and then we'll start drying it, and then we'll finish it. Our attack dog is barking in the background. Big attack dog. So, alrighty. Okay, so now we're going to start the drying process. Like I said, I'll finish it after it's dry. Okay, so it's not done. It's just I need to get it dry to see it first. Okay, so first things first, typically you use the leave-in conditioner. I'm going to use that as well on you because I want to, if you're using it and you're liking it, I want to keep that the same. Then all I'm going to change is just I'm going to add something to it, okay? So we can kind of see how that functions. Since you're using something, I'd rather, let's not switch you up completely. If it's doing okay for you, let's stick with it. And I think this one will. So I'm going to spray this all throughout. You know what? I'm actually going to have, do you mind? I'm going to have you spray it. The reason is because I want to see how you spray it and how much you're using right now.
See, it's kind of hard to tell where it goes, so I just kind of,
Okay.
that's about how much I would normally do.
Okay. Now, two things are going on. That's fine because this is a leave-in conditioner, right? I might spray a couple more sprays, just a couple other areas. Whoops, sorry. Put this back. Okay. This is a little drier than I would want it. For that, I'm not as concerned. I still would want to put that in wet typically. But for the next product, I want a little bit more control over exactly where this gets distributed. So I'm going to dampen it down a little bit. I'm just going to grab a water bottle here. And I want like this back here is okay. So feel this. Feel how damp that is back there. Okay, that's okay. But feel how dry this feels up in the front.
Yep.
That's way too dry. So and this is where I want most of the product. I don't want as much product on the side to the back. I really want to concentrate most of it around here where we want to see that extra volume. Really back here where I want to see it. So I want some in here because I want control over that front. And I want some back here because I want to get a little bit extra lift. Down here, you already get some hair. I don't want that to be big. Okay, we want that to lay in a little bit to give the illusion of more volume on top because we don't want it to be huge. And we know that we're not going to be able to use enough product to get it to be massive without it feeling like there's too much stuff in your hair, right? So to kind of dial it back, we want a larger version of what you normally have. Then I want to minimize the volume we have on the sides to make sure that this looks like there's enough volume, even when it isn't huge. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm going to dampen this down a little bit. And that's okay to dampen it down a little bit with that in. That's still in the hair. It's not like we're diluting it so ridiculously that it's rinsing it out. Okay, so now I'm going to put this over here so I don't forget it. Okay, now I'm going to use something called extra large. This is light. It's light in terms of the amount of volume it gives, right? So you can use a lot of it, but it's also light to the touch, which is why I think this will function well for your hair because you don't want to feel like there's a lot of stuff in your hair. So typically speaking, what's going to happen is you're going to go home and people are going to do something like that. Or they might be like, oh, I'm going to get crazy and use a little bit like this. That's not even a beginning. Like this would do nothing for your hair. You might as well not even honestly use it. You wouldn't even notice you use it. I'm going to work some of this in. Yeah, like we need to get, and I might layer more than that in. That's going to be, I'm going to start it here, working it back, okay? So I'm going to start in the front, and then I'm going to get it through here, and then I'm going to work it down. That is going to be probably close to get us some fluff on top, okay? It's not going to feel like you have a ridiculous amount of stuff on your hair, but it's also, that's not going to give us like massive amounts of volume, but it's going to give us a little bit of foundation, and I might add something to that. But usually the problem is people don't put enough in of product, and they just get the feeling, a little bit of feeling, and it doesn't do anything for the volume, and they think it's just going to weigh their hair down. This is just not strong enough. There are some products for volume out there that if you use that much, like usually they're gels or stuff like more like gel or paste, they feel there's a little bit more in your hair. One is called Bumble and Mumble styling cream, something like that. If I used that same amount of that gel, it would be you'd be like, it'll get volume, but you would feel like your hair was mud. But this is a much lighter product. So I'm using a little bit more. Because typically speaking, I even use too little of this. Our clients, they come back thinking, gosh, I wish I would have used a little bit more to get a little bit more control.
So over the years, I've accumulated stuff, and it sits
graveyards of product,
and it sits under my sink, and it's like I hold on to it though because I know that a stylist did great things with it at one point, and I thought, well, I'm going to buy that because I'm going to do that, but then I can never replicate it.
So that's what I want to walk you through, and it's not usually so this is part of it, right? But it doesn't matter. So this is why I'm so obnoxious with explaining every little thing. Okay, it's not just using that product. If you don't use enough of that, for instance, if you got that one, and I wouldn't tell you to, if you have a bunch of other mousses and stuff, we'll talk about it in a second, you can just use those. But if you're going to use that one and you go home and use a little bit, you'll be like, why doesn't this work? He got volume. I'm not. Why am I not getting volume? Because I use a ridiculous amount, and I started it all here, and I put it all there. I didn't start it in the back there, and your hair wasn't dry. It was damp before I started, so I get good distribution of it. All of those little things are adding up, and they're all going to create the end result. It is not one of them. It's not the fact that your hair was just the right moisture. That's what gave it volume. No, nor like it wasn't just the product. And it's not going to be just any of what you've seen now. It's going to be the process, which you're already doing, tilting your head upside down and blow drying it. All those things are already good. So you already have a lot of the other things. We're going to mix in a couple little nuances for you. But it's all of the things combined. But more often than not, too, like with your products that you have, use them. If you've got a mousse or a gel mousse, like a foam like that, or a mousse that's supposed to give volume, don't get that. Try that at home. Use much more of it than you need to, an absurd amount, and see what happens, right? Work through it. And then if you feel like, well, I'm still getting some volume, I'm getting volume, it doesn't feel horrible in my hair. It feels like there's something, but it's not ridiculous. Double up. Use twice as much. Use it to the point where you get way too much in your hair and you're like, that was too much. I can't stand this texture in my hair. You need to learn the boundaries, because usually then when you dial back, you end up getting the amount of volume that you want out of them, if they're going to create it for you, with the amount of volumes, with the amount of texture necessary to create that volume. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I think it's also technique too, because I was told you just put that all over everywhere and not focus on
it is
right.
No, 100%. No, it is very much technique, which is why we're going to walk you through all of the techniques. Okay, so maybe let's hold on for a second. I just want to see. I want to start with this one. I want to try using this one too. I just want to see your dryer. Let's start it. Start with this. Since you've got it here, are you using this on high heat usually?
Medium, I usually use.
Medium. Okay. So there's some good air pressure. There's some good air pressure to this. Does it have a attachment by any chance at home? Do you have one? They look like this.
I don't remember if I do or not. Obviously, I don't use it if I have it.
I just wanted to see how loud it was and if there was good pressure to it. So that's good. Usually what I find is a lot of blow dryers like this have very little air pressure, and it's almost too little to get your hair drier and be effective. It's almost kind of like frustrating. It's kind of like I learned how much I love a good dryer every time we go to a hotel and they get that little thing that's like a squirrel blowing through a straw on my hair. I'm like, it's going nowhere. But this, Like feel the difference, hold your hand out. You see how much air, and that's, so you can do a little bit less, you know what I mean? This is a light thin. This is one of my favorite blow dryers, hands down. But it's because I need it done quick, right? I need it to dry quick because I don't want your hair under heat any longer than it has to be, right? So, there it is. So what you would do at home is have you tilt all the way forward, and I'm going to have you do some of this because I want you to get the hands like working the way and make sure that we're doing it the right way. So you would tilt all the way forward. This is what you do anyway, right? You go like this, okay. And then you just get this up off your scalp and basically get it dry, but you're using your hands, right? So you're doing this. Okay. So you're going like this. Okay, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, now show me what you do. Okay, so first things first, stop real quick. I'm gonna move your hand around. Keep on staying down like that. What you're doing, look all the way down. Like go back like you normally were, like you.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. And I'm just gonna lift your hand up here. Now, it's just this, okay? So you're moving this around, you can move it like this. It's not this.
Okay.
Right?
Not underneath?
Yep, no, like that, yeah. Because we're gonna get all of that hair up off of the scalp. The minute you bring that hair down here, right? Now you're pushing the hair up the hair shaft, and that can create more frizz and texture out of your hair. This is still pointing the hair. We're gonna keep this, watch. So if I'm, go ahead and lean back. If I'm going like this, okay, you see this. This is still pointing the air down the hair shaft. Okay, so I'm still helping to smooth that out, but I'm still getting it up off the scalp. So it's doing what your hair was doing. Or what you're doing by leaning it forward. It's doing that. It's giving us that benefit, but it's not putting in the detriment of making my hair frizzy because I'm blowing it all around like that. Right? So it's less for you to have to smooth that or worry about. So this, and then typically what I like to do is I like to use this brush because it helps to get up off the scalp, but also it's starting to smooth this stuff out. So when I go like this, it's getting this hair up off the scalp. It's blowing through those little sections so it doesn't block the air, so it's still allowing it to dry quicker. It's lightweight and easy to use, but it's doing this and smoothing it out at the same time. So I am, just by changing just this, just by you going like this, okay? We're now giving your hair, we're getting your hair a little bit more lift and volume out of it, while also smoothing it down so that we have less to deal with after this gets dry, right? In the very back right here, I'm just gonna turn circles like this. And that's just gonna help some of that little hair lay under, right? Oh yeah, the last one I just did, yeah. It works. I mean, as dumb as it sounds, I don't know why. But I can take this and I use like my fingers and get that for the most part to just basically lay in pretty easily. The other thing that we're doing here is I'm going to go this way, and then I'm going to come down this way, and then I'm going to go this way, and then I'm going to come down this. So I'm going back and forth with it, okay? I'm not just going to do it this way or the other way since you blow dry your hair that way. I'm going to go back and forth all around. I want to do what we call non-directional, so I don't want this hair to really know what's happening, okay? I'm going to have it think, because ideally, maybe we want your hair to go this way, but also, see how much volume we're getting in there already in that front area, and I've literally done nothing to it at all. But just by drying it, starting to getting it go this way, and now I bring it back, I'm getting a little bit more lift in it. But I don't want to just get it to go that way. I want it to be able to go it anyway. So maybe you decide that we want it to part this way for some reason. Who knows? You know, you usually don't, but maybe you decide you want to. We can get control to allow it to do either or. And all that's really doing for me is allowing me more control over how I style it. So it's not just like allowing you to get the back and forth. It means that if it goes back and forth easily, it's probably going to look good, better, going the direction that you want it to go. Because if it looks okay going the other direction as well, it's going to look great this way too. You know what I mean? Like, you're just getting more versatility out of it. Now, even when I use my hands, I'm still pointing the blow dryer down this way, right? I'm still doing this versus doing this. And the only reason I'm using my hands right now is because I can get it up off the scalp. I'm using that to kind of bring it up off the scalp a little easier right here. Pull on it, and then really get in there, this little thicker area. Get in there and start getting some of those roots dry. Which way am I going? The constant struggle of a hairdresser, figuring out which way the cord is going under the chair. The bane of our existence right there. Especially one of those fancy salons that has them coming down from the ceiling. This is pretty cool. Now we're going to have you throw your hair all the way back. So just take your hands. Yep, there, just like that. Yep. Like this. Okay.
Your stuff is a little more volumizing than what I have ever used.
I'm just gonna leave it like that. Now you're gonna feel some of it in your hair, but put your hands in your hair real quick and feel that. It's gonna feel like there's some texture. Yeah. But does it feel ridiculous? Like, does it feel too super gummy and nasty?
No, it still feels soft.
Yeah, there's still softness to it, right? Definitely. And the reason that I think it's important, and the reason I'm having you tell you this, is because it's important to understand, like, it doesn't mean that it's gonna, I used a lot of that. I can use more and still get some lift out of it. So we really gotta push the limits. But if I had sent you home with that, would you have used as much as I put in there? I'm like, because nobody does, right? So, and then you would have got a little bit, but you would not even got near this amount of volume in your hair already. And I'm doing nothing to, this is the worst I can do right now for, like anything to create volume. I haven't given it bend or anything. And we're still getting a lot of like fluff out of it. Now, once I tame it all, I know that we're gonna have some good structure to that, where we got something that we can actually get your hair to have volume and last, right? So it's not like I'm doing anything so fancy. I guess that's what I'm getting across, is I'm not doing anything so special that you can't do. All I did was I used more product. I made sure that we applied it correctly, with the correct dampness. And then I just got your hair dry. All of that stuff, 100,000,000%, you're already doing at home. We're just using different amounts, right?
Right.
So there's nothing that I've done here that you can't do. Now I'm just gonna make sure that this is dry. And then I will take I'll probably take like a round brush to it. Technically speaking, like you could just comb it down, you know what I mean, with a brush right now. Like if I really wanted to just like get this to lay under, you know what I mean, like lay this in, not spend a lot of time like working at it, get this to lay in. I could still get it like somewhat of kind of like an overall like smoother look with doing nothing, like doing literally nothing to it, right? And then you could kind of flat iron a few pieces under, like on this stuff, have some of that. Like, I could get you there and doing absolutely nothing but playing with my hands. If I use a round brush on it and smooth it out, then it's gonna be a little bit of a nicer look. Or you can use a flat iron, the same way and do something like that. I'm gonna use a round brush because I still need to go through and texturize it. So I still need to go through and like layer it. If I get it too flat or too smooth with the flat iron, I'm not gonna be able to see what I need to see to actually cut it like that. So where did my little thing go? Found it. Okay, so you don't need to do this at home, okay? Use this. Although, if you really want control out of the front, I would recommend you do this, okay? Which is gonna feel awkward at first. Do you ever use round brushes at all?
No, not really.
Okay, I know you say you didn't before, like in your day-to-day, but I'm gonna give this to you. I'm gonna show you just what you're gonna, just the very front section. So you're gonna take that, pull it in. You're just gonna put just this section, like this bang section, in that brush, okay? But what we're gonna do, we're gonna get a little bit more. You're actually gonna pull this. I'm gonna go this way with it a little bit, okay? Oh. Now comb through it a little bit. Do you feel the tension in there?
Yeah.
Okay, do that again. Keep on doing that. Just that motion, okay? Mm-hmm. That's all you're doing when you're round brushing, okay?
Oh, you're not moving the brush. You're not. So you just get it and hold
Yeah, yep, this is literally this is exactly what you do. So what you'll do a little bit more is you'll go back a little bit further and then pull it through. A little further, pull it through. Okay, but you're gonna bring this direction. Now what I want you to do is just take this, and we're not gonna turn it on yet, but all I'm gonna have you do is just bring this up here. You're gonna make sure that little nozzle are pointed down, and you're just gonna do both hands like this. Yeah, you see that? Mm-hmm. That's like perfect form.
Okay.
Round brushing. That's literally. So some of this stuff might fall out. You get that rid of it. Okay. So I'm just going to add the heat now. And you're just going to go slow.
You do it on the brush?
All the way through. You're just going to go all the way through like this. Keep on going. Slowly. Yep. And we're going to let it go out. Oh. There you go. So you're just going to work it through a couple times, and you're just going to basically let it do that. But see, but see how such a small amount of actual effort right there, right? Mm-hmm. But see how you got that to be smooth and there's a little bit of bend to it. You're just going to get used to doing that. So the only process, all I'm doing when I do it is I'll take a section and I'm just doing this. And so yes, you can do this and turn it, okay? But get that little bit of tension in your hair. Mm-hmm. I'm pointing this down the hair shaft. So I can do this, I'm not even getting heat on that right now, right? This will break your hair. That will add frizz. This smooths it out. Okay, and then the last one, I just go like this, and I go really, really kind of slow through the ends, and I just do that. There's not a lot of difference between my result and your result that you just did 5 seconds ago, right?
Yeah.
I went that way with it because we're going to style it this way, and you do have that little bit of cowlick, so I wanted a little bit of control over just that front piece. And so that will still easily tuck, but it gives us a little bit of kind of lift and smoothness on the front. Even if you just do the very, very front, it changes like everything for the overall style. It makes it look like it's been styled, even if you do nothing else to it, okay? Now I'm gonna go through and just kind of do a few pieces like this. Now I'm doing this to cut it. After we get done with this, I'm going to style your hair different for the actual, to show you different ways. Okay, but you can literally just round brush it even that fast, right? You tuck this back, you got that piece that falls. It totally goes back. But at worst case scenario, if a piece falls or something, right, it's a little point of interest if you're not playing tennis, okay?
Right.
But at the same time though, even with just doing that, I go in here and mess this up. And if I really wanted to, I can get a pretty good amount of more lift than we need. You know what I mean? Like I don't want your hair massive big, but we can get a lot of lift out of it, or a good amount of lift by comparison. I'm gonna lighten this up a little bit more. But what I'm gonna do after we style it, is I'm actually gonna flat iron some of this kind of the way you would, some of those pieces to kind of give it a little bit more of a contemporary look than it having too much fullness. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's kind of even it out too, because sometimes one side's wonky.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, that's why I'm gonna flat iron it for sure. And there guaranteed will be one side that's longer than the other side now.
Well, I mean, like my hair curls funky.
Oh, got it.
Not your cut, Justin.
I always leave one side. I always leave one side longer until I have to go back in and flatten and actually look at it. Okay.
You had a red battery thing flick on your camera there, by the way. Right there.
Oh, on the bottom, on the little
Yeah.
screen? No,
Yeah,
that's okay.
there was a red bed.
That's just yelling at me. That one's fine. Thank you, though, for the heads up. It sounds like I got some weirdo heavy breathing over in the corner. I've got a dog that has done nothing, but all of a sudden is just out of wind because he's been sleeping too hard. Plug that flat iron, babe. We put that flat iron in for me. Is it plug? Yeah, I think I've got it sitting there. I just didn't plug it in because I don't know that you can turn it off.
Down the bottom? Or down on the second foot?
Here, maybe I'll just plug it in on there. Yeah, that one's good. Thank you. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in. I'm actually going to flat iron this stuff just for a different look. I'm going to get it really smooth. And then this stuff, I'm going to allow it to sit over it. And I might even give like a couple pieces a little bit of wave. You like wave? You like? So I might give it a little bit of wave just for the fun of it.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. And I would love to show you kind of like different ways because here's what's going to happen. Most of the time when you dry it straight like this, you're not going to round brush it all and dry it straight like this. You're going to dry it straight, and then most of the time it's going to come back like this when it's straight like this. You know what I mean? And so all we're really trying to do is just create enough foundation that you can get a little bit more lift up there, and then it's going to end up basically doing this. You know what I mean? And then this stuff is like, oh, well, either we tuck that or we take this and actually twist that and get that into a ponytail for when we're playing tennis, right? So that's gonna be like kind of the process. So the rest of the time when you're like trying to style it and gonna wear it down, I wanna show you a different option, a couple that you have to kind of play with the way that you address it. And part of it, is gonna be just understanding what we're gonna lay flat and what we're not gonna lay flat. Now you see how much volume we're already even getting in this area, like in the back? We don't want more than that. Like that's more than enough volume. And that'll last a pretty good amount of time because we've got so much foundation in it. So all we wanna do now is I wanna go through this stuff, this bottom part, and I actually wanna just take that and I'm gonna flat iron that pretty, not board straight, tilt your head off just to the right a little bit like that. Not board straight, but I'm gonna flat iron it pretty straight. So kind of like this. Okay, so we want a little bit of bend. You see like that amount of bend to it, where it's not board straight, but it's also not like curled.
It's not wrapping around my chin. It's
Exactly.
just coming straight down.
Exactly, which it will do automatically. So it's gonna wrap just because of the way because of the way hair hangs.
Right.
So it's gonna wrap a little bit. But you see how crisp and kind of strong that looks?
Yeah, it's more of a, instead of.
Exactly. So this is gonna lay this, it's gonna do two things for us. One, it's laying this all in so it's a little bit less voluminous there. Okay, so that when I bring the other hair down above it, we're going to get a little bit more lift, and then that stuff is going to lay in a little bit tighter through there. So it's going to feel like it's not as full at the bottom. Okay, so that's one aspect of it. And then two, I'm still going to take a little bit more of that and go flatter with it. It's going to give it just a little bit of a more polished line, which is just kind of what we think of when we think of like really strong kind of like bob-ish shapes, which any length that lands in this length range is going to have somewhat of a bob-ish shape to it. It just kind of is what it is. Okay. And then this stuff on top, that's where you're going to add some wave. So I'm going to do this, since we've already got the top kind of, round brushed for the most part, kind of smooth out. We don't need to add a lot more to that with this. So I'm really just going to go through the sides here, polish that up, give you that kind of look, show you kind of an idea of what that is like. And then we'll add a little bit of wave to it and show you what that's like. And then we'll be done. And I'll be quite literally out of your hair. And out of your ear. You won't have to listen to me talk anymore. Yeah, I'm going to write this.
Well, that's good to do a straight and a wave because my hair naturally gets wavy over on this side of the mountain.
Yeah.
As opposed to on the dry side.
Well, and I really want to just kind of show you a different way to, like if you're going to go out and you're going to style it, you know what I mean? Come here. There it goes. Here's just some different options. And what we're doing right now, it's really fast. It's easy. It's manageable. You're just going to, I'm probably spending more time on it than you actually need to spend on it. You could just grab big sections of hair and just flat iron them, and be good with it. Mm-hmm. And you're going to get the result. Like you can grab larger sections than I'm taking, But I'm just being a little bit more methodical about it than I need to, just so I don't, get yelled at in the comment section. Can't even cut hair, man. You can't style hair. You guys are so fast. Didn't do anything. Actually, I was going to say it's slow. Okay, so we do nothing to it, right? Just a little bit of flat ironing at the very bottom, a slight amount of round brushing in the front. But this stuff was very fast round brush. I didn't go through it and really try to polish it off. But it's got a right amount of volume up through here, or it feels like it's got more volume because there's just less down through there. Mm-hmm. Now I'm going to put it against that background. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
And there's some lift up there, see you on the side. Can you see that a little bit? Right? So there's more lift up through here, and this feels like it lays in a little bit more. So to me, if I was going to wear it straight, that's probably the way I'd go if I wanted it a little bit more polished, right? Mm-hmm. But if we're going to have a little bit more, I think it's a little bit more fun with it, then I would leave this stuff straight underneath. Okay. And I would just take very quickly. Have you ever used one of these before?
No. Okay, that's not a flat iron.
It is.
But, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you said it's not a flat iron.
It's just a flat iron,
yeah.
Right?
It's a flat iron. It's got the rounded corners.
See, my daughter does that with mine. I don't know how. And she's tried to show me how to do that, and I can never get it. Okay,
with your hair, it's going to go fast. I would show you how you do it, but it's going to happen so fast. I'll show you what I'm talking about. All you're going to do is, though, you're going to put it in, okay? And once you put it in, you're going to close it, you're going to turn it, and you're going to pull it. The faster you pull this, the more curl you're going to get.
The faster you pull it.
Sorry. The faster you pull it, the less curl you're going to get. The slower you pull it, the more curl you're going to get.
Okay.
The more hair you have in there, the less curl you're going to get. The less hair you have in there, the more curl you're going to get. Okay. So if you grab large sections, something like this, consistently all the way around, you just have to think, I'm going to get about this big of a section. I'm going to put this in, and the faster I move, the less wave I'm going to get, and the slower I go through it, I'm going to get more curl. And then you kind of determine how much you want, and you learn this is the size of the section, and this is how fast I pull it through, and that's the kind of wave I get from that. Okay. This one's just a little easier because of the rounded edges. For some reason, Deanna cannot do it with the flat iron. But like you said, this is just a flat iron. But here, this works perfectly. It's the weirdest thing.
Well, it makes sense because, the hair wraps around it because it's round. Right?
Yeah. I don't know what it is. But it's the same exact process. The functionality is exactly the same. It doesn't change, I don't think, so much. But for whatever reason, it's easier for people to get their head around how it works. But this is going to go pretty quick. So I'm going to put this in. Okay. Twist it
away.
And I'm going to pull it down. Okay. And see, it puts in wave on that section pretty fast. So depending on how much you want, it's going to come in quick. Okay. So
if I don't have to do the whole head, then that makes it way easier.
Yeah.
Right? If you're just doing a little bit on top.
And see, I'm kind of pulling down and away from the face. Mm-hmm. Okay. So all we really want is we just want a little bit of kind of texture to it, right? Mm-hmm. So this kind of stuff stays under. That stuff just gets a little bit of wave. And it's not overly done. It's just kind of cool, So I'll just do this top. section. I mean, you can do as much, I should say with this, you can do as much or as little as you want. So you could literally do just the very front and leave all the rest completely straight. That's a total look for people. You can add a little bit more. It's totally up to you. So whatever feels like it's the right amount, there's no right or wrong to this. So I'm just going to go through and just add a handful of pieces. And I'm going to stop when I feel like I have enough in there that, like, this is as much as I want to see in there. That's the kind of wave I want to see. But you might find that you like it much less wave, less pieces that are wavy, more pieces that are straighty. Straighty? I just said that. That's a thing.
Are you coining the term?
I'm coining the phrase straighty now. I feel like I can't coin that. I feel like I shouldn't even have said that. I feel like that's the kind of thing that will get taken wrong way and I'll get canceled. Can't say that. Let's see, look at this one. Where's this cord? And let's see, I'm gonna put one.
This will be nice. I'm going out to dinner tonight.
Oh, right on. Where are you guys going?
Cafe du Berry.
Cafe du Berry?
Cafe du Berry.
No, that's probably Cafe du Berry. I have no idea. I just wanted to sound cool for a second.
It's French, right? I think it's French.
Yeah, it sounds like it is. Cafe du Berry or something like that, which is probably the complete wrong way to pronounce it.
I have no idea.
I'm gonna get a little bit more on that one. It's a little thicker of a section. You guys have reservations?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, my brother-in-law lives in Durham,
Okay.
so he's very familiar with the good restaurants around.
Nice. There are a lot of them. Like, it's overwhelming how many are around this area, I feel like. Two sections out of this. This one is more of just comb through it with your fingers. Get a little bit of texture in it. Okay. You guys are so quiet. It's making me nervous. You've been quiet the whole time, but I feel like everybody's stared at me just like super like intensely. I'm like, oh my gosh. It's all your fault.
So you always go away. Oh no, you're going forward.
This one, there's a piece here that's just a little bit more wavy than I want it.
Oh.
So I'm just kind of straighten that out a little bit. Just a little bit too. I felt like there was a kink there. But typically, yes. Typically, I go back away from the face, back away from the face. You can alternate. Back away, forward, away, forward. It's totally up to you. Some people like it one way, some like it the other way. I prefer it back off the face. I just think it looks more natural. Coming into the face seems odd to me, but it's not like there's a right or wrong to it. Again, so I'm just going to smooth this one piece out a little bit more, and we'll just shake you out. Oops, wrong button. Then the last thing that you do is just, do me a favor, just shake your hair like this really hard. Shake it really hard, like, yeah, there we go. And I'm just gonna go in. Usually what I find is after you kind of get like a little bit of wave or kick or shape into it, then the best thing you can do is get your hands in it and kind of play with it, and don't be too scared of it, right? So we'll kind of get a little bit of messiness to it. Bring this back. Like that one little side tucked. Side kind of coming under that. Do they look even? Okay, that bends, yeah, they'll be even. I just have to check, make sure, because, you know. Yeah. And I like that to break, or like right at the cheekbone, so it kind of does this. But that's just, you know. Okay, now let me give you a mirror so you can see the profile on it. So you still have length, right? Mm-hmm. This is actually longer in the front than it is in the back. It looks a little bit parallel to the floor right now only because this is curled and this back here is not, right? But we literally only added wave to this stuff up here. Everything else is straight. Mm-hmm. And the reason that that's important is because if you don't want to spend a lot of time on it, you just want to kind of like get the, you know, like get some sort of movement and texture to it so it's not quite flat and straight, then you don't have to do a ton.
Just do that top layer, huh?
Yeah, just flatten this stuff out, get a little bit of top layer in the top, you know, a little bit of on that top layer, a little bit of bend, a little bit of curl, and you'll end up getting like a lot of movement and texture to it. It'll feel like there's a lot of movement and texture. In reality, the only thing that's got any movement or texture is just a little bit up here. Mm-hmm. And this stuff you still have just, you know, this gets tucked behind your ears and you just have a little bit of kickiness to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like it.
Let me just check it here, make sure. I feel like there's a piece here that I want to, is that just straight when doing that? Nope, there's one little piece in here that I need to get after. I told you, always, every time.
Should I have Deanna come and look at it?
No. Nope, it's just straight. I lied. Let me just add the bend to it. See, I wasn't wrong. It actually is perfect.
Well, there's a first time for everything, honey.
Oh my gosh. You know what? Hey, Joseph, when you're editing this, just go ahead and cut that audio out so you can't hear her say that. Now we're going to get I got you, Justin, on the screen. Thank you so much.
So does that thing go below it?
It does. I've never used that functionality of it. I don't think it's a bad thing to have, but I don't think it's a need to have either. There you go. So easy as that. Cute, huh?
I like it.
Does that look okay? Does it look okay? Good. It's cuter. She said it's awesome over here. In case you can't hear, everybody over here is like jumping up and down and you know, it's like this. It's
Thanks,
pretty wild. All righty. Well, that is that. So I appreciate you. Does it all make sense to you?
Yeah. I learned so much. I feel like I need to do a follow-up.
Whether you wanted to or not, you learned way more than you want. I feel it. I get it. That's cute, though. I like it like that. That is definitely something you could still, the next day, have this up in a ponytail.
I mean, it looks much more polished than when I came in here with my just, you know.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah.
It's cute and easy. And I think that if you're already flat ironing your hair in some areas, that's kind of why I wanted to go that direction. Because you can just comb your hair out after you dry it and then just hit a couple places with a flat iron. The only difference is instead of doing this, you're going to put it in, twist it, and pull it out on a couple sides. And now all of a sudden you have an entirely different look.
Yeah, that should be easy. I think I can do that.
I'm confident you can. I think you can.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
Thank you so much. It was
Thank
a pleasure.
you. So nice meeting you.
It was so nice to meet you. I appreciate the trust and let me do it. Okay, let's go get some before and after so you can see what it looks like here and here.
Okay.
Okay, I really appreciate you checking this out. So I'd love to know what you think. Do you love her hair? Do you think I could have done better, something different? Throw it in the comments and let me know. And otherwise, if you like this, make sure you check out these because you're going to love them. And I'll see you over there.